please, I hope that you guys have tried this thing out. First of all, if I'm not your friend, go request me right now. Because right now, Gordon Gecko and David are beating me, and it's ticking me off. I just can't seem to get the friends. Granted, I don't sit here and scavenge the site for everybody who's not my friend like they do, because they don't have anything else to do, I guess. But I appreciate them, but I still want to be more popular. All right, whenever you get in here, here's your forums and the groups. This is where you guys can connect with your fellow students. So you click on a forum. This is where you can ask basic general questions, tech support questions, general support, trade navigator questions, broker questions. There's some study groups going on. There's a UPW meet and greet. That's kind of interesting. I didn't know that was in there, but that's cool anyway. We got strategies and trade setup questions. And there's a lot of people that are active in here. I mean, given the nature of how long that we've had this available, I feel pretty excited that we've had the amount of activity we have. Now come over to the groups and look at the groups here. I clicked on this little button right here. You can come right down here to any of the foundations of stocks and options, level 1, 2, or 3. And you can get in here and say, I really want to talk with students tonight that are in this class. And here's Stephanie. She says, I have a trading journal I'd like to share. How do I go about doing that? And then you've got other people that are writing in here. And, Ryan has written in. What format is it? It's a PDF. You can put it in Dropbox. So see, this is awesome. Because now you see the conversations going on. These are your students that are in this class with you right here. They're talking about stuff. And another cool thing about it is, and Stephanie, I don't know if Stephanie's in here tonight. I know Sherry, she moderates a lot of our classes for us. But what I'd like to see is whenever we see stuff like this, I'd like to know that you guys need a way to share journals and stuff. On the social network, and then send that over to Shane. Shane is the most important person because he's updating all this for us. Can you just click? You can just click on Shane here. You can send Shane all the stuff you want. Talk to Sherry, or there's several TradeSmart people that are always looming on the social network. You got Jeremy Newsom and Stacy. You'll find some people various places, or just send them a private message, or send me a private message, and we want to incorporate these things so it's really a really great tool for you. Okay. I'm digressing here. I just wanted to show you that the group is a really important place where you can get stuff. Now, to answer your question about how you get your resources, when you log in, Oscar, when you log in, you're going to notice right here in the middle, I've got this zoomed so far that I move the mouse just a little bit and it scoots the whole page. All right, right here in the middle, you see where it says My Courses, Oscar? Pick the class that you need, Foundations Level 1, Level 2, or Level 3, okay? So let's say that you need those materials that I just showed you. You click on Level 1, because I told you exactly where it was. I said it was in Level 1, Class 6. So you come to Level 1. Now, here's your videos. So during this break that's coming up in a couple weeks, you can come in here and you can rewatch any of these classes, okay? And then if you want class materials, Oscar, right here. Class materials. Okay, so you just click on the class materials, and Oscar, here's all of your notebooks right there. Now, have you guys been doing your quizzes? Because you realize the quizzes are on here. These are super helpful. I realize some of the level 3 quizzes are not done yet, but they'll be done very soon. These quizzes are super helpful, especially if you want to drill some principles down. Let's go to get some more advanced stuff here. Watch this. I'm going to come over here to level 2. Where you guys really need to drill your technical analysis. So come over here to level 2. You click on interactive quiz, and this is really awesome because if let's say you're sitting here saying I want to really test my candlesticks, and it looks like you've got class 13 quiz 1 right here. Okay, so you say candlesticks are the building blocks of trading successfully. Take this test until you get 100% correct, then wash and repeat. Wash and repeat. Who wrote that? I got to talk to Paul and Jeremy Newsom about that. Wash and repeat. All right. So candlesticks are very important. True or false? True. Okay. And you guys can just sit here and do these quizzes. Some of them are kind of dumb, the questions, but you get into pattern recognition. It's very cool. I will take this test many times. Okay. This is not a real quiz. Somebody put some fake questions in here that didn't get filtered out. This candle is bullish. Yes or no? Yes, true. This is a bullish candle. Okay. Then you say this candle is well, see, now we're getting to candle recognition. What is this type of a candle? This is a what? You guys tell me. A white Maribozu, a black Maribozu, an ice cream cone, a spinning top. It would be a white or a bullish Maribozu. Exactly. So you guys get the idea. All right. So these quizzes are very, very helpful. And now that I'm recognizing that they didn't get some of the fake questions out, I'm going to have a big butt kicking tomorrow. I hate it when I'm in a class and I realize they didn't get some stuff done. All right. So did I answer all your questions about the resources on here? I hope I answered all your questions. Oscar, did you get your question in there? And Gary just says Jeremy. I don't know why, but he just said Jeremy. No follow-up. All right, great. Let's go do a basic trade analysis based on what we just learned tonight. And so I'm going to come over here to Trade Navigator. And in about 35 minutes or so that we've got remaining, I'm going to take a quick drink of Dr. Pepper. Here it goes. What an amazing sip of Dr. Pepper. Guys, tell me a stock that we never look at. And let's just do this from scratch because I do not want anybody to leave Foundations of Stocks and Options and think to yourself, I have to trade those top 10 stocks. I don't want anybody to leave and think, I don't know how to analyze anything but the top 10. So you give me something. Oh my goodness. How do I pick? All right, PBR has come in several times, and it was one of the first ones, so I guess I'll go with PBR. So, my goodness. Okay. See, this is why, honestly, I wish I could take a screenshot of this. I'm going to take a screenshot of this and show you guys. This is so crazy. I want you guys to see what I deal with in terms of questions. Well, not just me. What we all deal with in terms of questions here. Watch this right here. This is so crazy. I said, tell me something, and all within 1 minute. Within 1 minute, this is what came flying in here. Watch this. Boom. That's my questions tab. Oh, look at that. All within 1 minute. You guys wonder how sometimes I lose your questions? That's how we lose the questions. Look at that. All the time, same timestamp. Also, this is the reason that we have a top 10 list. What the top 10 list allows us to do when we have several hundred people in a class is it allows us to stick to a schedule, to stick to a list. So we're all looking at the same stuff. But what I want you to do with the top 10, when you get into Power Trader and you get into all the other stuff that are the advanced classes and stuff, what I want you to do with the top 10 list is use that to learn, and then I want you to apply it to anything, okay? So we're going to apply it right now to PBR. So PBR, here we come. I haven't traded PBR in quite a while. It used to be on our top 10, actually. So we got some lines on here. Let me tell you how powerful lines are. I can't remember the last time I looked at PBR. It's been several months. That's pretty dang good, isn't it? It's pretty dang good when you can come look at a stock that you haven't looked at for several weeks or several months, and all your lines still work. That is comforting, by the way. Actually, this is an interesting personal story. I'll tell you a quick personal story. Whenever I was learning to trade, actually I had learned to trade. I was learning technical analysis is what it was. And I got really discouraged. I think a lot of you get to this point where you put your lines on there and you get frustrated and you try it and you try it. And I had been doing this for several weeks, maybe 8 or 10 weeks. And I was just too close to it. I mean, I was pouring hours a day into learning how to trade. And I was getting so frustrated because I wasn't seeing the results I wanted, and I was in a financial crunch in my personal life, so I really had to trade, in my opinion, and I was losing money, and I didn't have the money to lose, blah, blah, blah. And so I walked away from trading for a while, and I walked away for about 6 or 8 months, for a pretty good little bit, and I came back, and I opened up my charting software, and I pulled up a stock like this. I don't remember which one it was, but I pulled up a stock like this, and all my lines matched perfectly. And I had that moment. That was my aha. That was one of my biggest turning points when I realized that I did know how to draw the lines. I did know how to chart the stock. Now it was just a matter of reading the data. That was such a big aha for me to come back to a stock that I had charted months before. I had given up on everything in my mind. I was really discouraged. And I came back and I looked at it and I was like, oh my gosh, look how right my chart was. So I knew then that it wasn't my charting skills that sucked. It wasn't that, the stocks were unpredictable. It wasn't that I was being taken advantage of. It was simply my own skill set. And that really gave me a lot of confidence. So maybe that gives some of you guys some confidence as well. I'm sure you'll get to a point, if you've not been there yet, you probably at some point will get to a point where you get a little bit discouraged, and maybe that'll encourage you a little bit. All right, so let's look at PBR. Fortunately, I've got lines on here, and they look like they're pretty good. So let me zoom out, and this will save us a lot of time not having to draw additional lines. Looks like there's been a new one that's really kind of gotten established right here. I don't have it on my chart, so let me... if I've not traded something for a long time and I really want to trade it, I'm going to come back through and I'm going to update my lines just like I'm doing in front of you right now. So I added that new line in there, and it looks like that's pretty spot on accurate there. I'm questioning if it should go down here versus right up in there. Let me just circle so you don't think I'm just talking to the wind. I'm questioning if it should go at the bottom or if it should go up at that closing price point. Normally I draw it off the close, but coming over here to the left, you can see that the bottom really lines up with some of these guys. So, these are the things that as you learn to trade, you have to ask yourself. And I really have 4 perfect touches right there. And I've got an intraday touch right here that makes that a perfect touch. And as I look further left or further to the right, that line makes more sense. It makes more sense. I'm going to zoom in so you can see it better. It makes more sense for me to have put this line right in here at the low of the day. You see I'm putting it at the low here. Get that crosshair off there. Putting it here at the low instead of at the close. If I was on my line chart, here's what the line chart would look like. Okay, the line chart would have put the line right up here, because that's a closing price. I always say look at your candles second for confirmation. Well, when I looked at my candles, I saw all these points that were hitting right here. And now as I zoom in, look at that. That is spot on. That is exactly the turning point. That's it right there. So I put it in the right spot. Okay, now that I know that, my most recent time frames are charted. Let's look through here. I might have a good trend line running through here. So let me mark this. And let's just see if this trend line lines up very well. And it is. It's pretty good. Let's go to our line chart. It's not very good at all. Okay, so I'm going to come right off the peak here. See, this is really frustrating when it's so close, but it's not quite right. And then you wonder, should I really leave my line on there? And what I end up usually deferring to, if my line doesn't line up just right, which, by the way, that's the right line right there. So sometimes you just can't tell exactly where the right line is. You think you should go off these peaks. You pull right through it. You hit these touches, and you're like, oh, that's looking good. And then you look back, and you realize, boom, boom, that was my line. And so, technical analysis, the art of technical analysis, not the science, but the art of technical analysis. Oftentimes you have to fudge certain corners like those 2 peaks in favor of the internal touches that lined up down here, and that's the angle of the attack right there. Now, one way that we're going to test this and watch what happens, I haven't looked at this in a long time, but watch this. I bet our long-term moving averages confirm this. Let's see. Pretty darn close. Look at that. When you flip over and your long-term moving averages have the same angle. Now I'm realizing that wasn't my peak at all, but still it's the right angle. Those long-term moving averages have that same angle as my trend line, so I definitely know that trend line's the right spot. All right, let me just really fast, now that I'm realizing there was all this other highs back here, I thought I was zoomed in. Let me just look and see if I would want to have another downtrend line on here, and no, that doesn't line up very well at all. That looks like, well, it kind of works really well actually for those 2 peaks. But I don't know that it's really the most valuable line. I don't think it's going to add anything to us. It's just going to clutter the chart. I'm going to get rid of it. All right, now that we've done this, now that I got my trend lines drawn and I've struggled through some stuff right in front of you and watched, you've looked over my shoulder while I did it here. Let's start asking the questions about our line drawing. I'm going to extend this. I'm going to click on it, right-click on it, and I'm going to click extension to the right. So I see where that trend line's coming through. Okay? Now, here's my questions. Am I in a trend? Yes or no? Am I in a trend? Yes or no? Yes, we're in a trend. Bullish or bearish trend? We're in a downtrend on which scale? Oh, now there's a question. Which scale of a downtrend are we on? We're definitely in a primary downtrend for PBR. Okay, primary downtrend. What about intermediate? Is this an intermediate downtrend? No. Intermediate, we've been in an uptrend for the last 1, 2, 3 months. This is an intermediate trend. Okay, you get past a couple of weeks in there, you're getting into an intermediate trend most likely. And looking at the scale of this downtrend, you see the scale of the downtrend, this is obviously intermediate level cycles that are coming back up. So the intermediate trend has swung back up here, which means this could set us up, and it might be the beginning phase of a new bullish reversal, and we don't know it. So the intermediate swing is a bullish swing. Okay, zooming back in on some details here. Scooting over. Yes, we're in a trend. We're in a bullish trend, or we're in a bearish trend, primary, but we've been in a bullish upswing here with our intermediate levels here. Are we moving up, down, or sideways? What do you guys think? Up, down, or sideways? Getting a good mixture here. Yeah, if you're filling out your form, what are some good notes to take? This is a really good way to do analysis. What are some good notes to take? No, sideways is not the answer. We're either going up or down. And I would actually, I mean, if I'm just doing this for pure educational purposes, I would say I am both bullish and bearish. And in my notes, I would say bearish, primary trend, bullish, intermediate trend. Now, I also, if I was making detailed notes of this, should I write this on the screen? I think you guys know that, but I'll say bearish, primary trend, bullish, intermediate trend, and I would also make the note that the intermediate trend is rather mature. Now, what does that mean? It means that we've gone a good ways in this intermediate trend and we're approaching these resistances from the primary trend. So knowing that we've just got out of an intermediate bullish counter trend, we're setting up nicely, very nicely for a potential bearish move to come back in, because the primary move's bearish. The counter trend has come back up into bearish the major bearish trend line territory. This is pretty good. Now, am I at a resistance? Yes or no? Am I at a resistance? Yes, we're at a resistance. All right. Am I at a pivot point in that resistance? Yeah, we're at a pivot point. Okay. It might have even come off the pivot point. I mean, this has been coming back down a little ways here. So we might even be off the pivot point, but I'm not ready to say that yet. Let's move to the next step. What do the moving averages tell me? Short-term moving averages are bullish or bearish? Short-term moving averages are bullish. Yes, very much bullish. Now, are they moving bullish at a good, strong angle? Yes or no? Not the strongest angle. No, not really a strong angle. Okay, so does this confirm anything that we've learned with our line drawing so far? What do you guys think? Is this is all of our analysis lining up? I think it is. We're realizing that we've been in a primary bearish trend, but the intermediate trend has been bullish, and the short-term moving averages supported that, and they're doing it with a fairly weak angle, suggesting that this is more of a counter trend rather than a full-on reversal that's going bullish at this point. You guys see how this is fitting together? Now, do we have moving average crosses? Well, we did, but we don't currently have any new moving average crosses. I think we've learned what we can learn from this. What about our long-term moving averages? Now, when do we use long-term? We only want to really look at long-term moving averages to help ascertain the primary trend. Long-term moving averages. Wow. Do they confirm what we've been talking about? Very much so. Long-term moving averages look just like your downtrend, your primary downtrend. So yes, primary downtrend has definitely been in effect. And isn't it interesting that we traded up to the 200 period? That's where we got a shooting star, which we haven't talked about candles yet, but we got a reversal signal there. We're close to that downtrend line, and we started to have some potential correction here. So this is definitely setting up in a specific angle, okay? Now let's look at our chart patterns. Do we have any chart patterns that are worth mentioning? Yes or no? I think we got some very serious chart patterns to talk about. Would you guys call that a flag pattern? I think there's a very good chance this could be a flag pattern that could suggest bullish continuation. Was this a flag pattern? Absolutely, that was a flag pattern. Do we see any other major patterns that are worth discussing at this point? A W. I don't see the W. But I see something else that's interesting. Alexis says there's talks of a possible correction. Estimates range from about 5 to 17%. Alexis, sweetheart, I'm going to chastise you in front of everybody, not because I want to embarrass you. We don't care what other people think, do we? Part of our analysis does not include looking at the consensus. It does not matter. Consensus is very often wrong. Most of the time it's wrong. Do not look at consensus. I guarantee you, you have better analysis skills than probably 85 or 90% of the people that are talking heads on television. And I can almost guarantee you, you're a better technical analyst already than the majority of the people that are writing fundamental information for website publication. They do not even pay attention to technicals. They don't recognize it. They don't get it. And so, Alexis, I'm really going to use an example of you tonight, not because I want to embarrass you, but don't fall for that. You're a great example right now only because of such a common fallacy. It is so typical and so common that beginning traders feel like they need additional confirmation outside of themselves. You don't. You need to learn to do this 5-step analysis process. Learn through the trader conditioning system that you can be consistent on your own and learn to trust yourself. I will tell you guys, I blow out accounts if I don't pay attention to myself. If I start listening to other people, I screw up 10 times out of 10. Every time I listen to other people tell me what they think is going to happen and I let it have any impact on what I believe is going to happen, it screws me up. It will screw you up. You know. You already know, okay? This is really, really important because it's important that you learn to trust yourself. All right? Now, let's come back to chart patterns. Does anybody see a chart pattern? I kind of skipped through here accidentally. David says inverted head and shoulders. I don't want to call it that. Let me draw it out for you. Okay? It's not a V bottom. But do you guys see how we actually had, first, we had an expanding triangle or an inverse triangle. Then we had an ascending triangle. And this really, when you put it together, you create a diamond pattern, even though it's not your typical diamond. Typically speaking, a diamond pattern would look like this. But this is really basically a diamond pattern, just happens to have a flat top, and we broke out. And then as we broke out, we came back and we tested that. That's got to have some bullish factor to it. This has a lot of terminal characteristics. Now, what does that mean? Terminal characteristics means that it's potentially terminating the preceding trend. And this would make a lot of sense. Looking at the length of this trend, you could say, wow, okay, that's been a very healthy trend. If you want to go really nerdy on you and, start trying to count Elliott waves, which, usually is not a good measurement here, but sometimes in a context like this, it actually is beneficial. You say, wow, I got a major 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave sequence. There's a good chance this trend is terminating and the pattern suggests it. And I've got 2 really solid continuation patterns here, 2 flag patterns. What would it take to convince you guys that this trend has turned and has gone bullish? We're starting to get a really clear picture of analysis here, aren't we? What would it take? A breakout above my trend line. That would be a really, really good signal. If we can break above this trend line, there's a really good chance that that's got some momentum behind it. How about coming back to our moving averages? Would it make some sense to you if the moving averages suddenly took a new, sharper angle up That would be a really good angle. Some good bullish candlesticks would be a really good angle. So I think this is pretty fascinating. Out of all of the chart patterns that we've seen here, they all suggest bullishness. They all suggest termination of the trend, of the preceding trend. That would be your triangles down here. Obviously, some accumulation happening. Inverted triangle turned into into an ascending triangle. This really is a clunky but very realistic diamond pattern. This is a type of a consolidation formation. Diamond patterns can be continuation or reversal patterns. In this context, it was more likely to be a reversal pattern. We did reverse out of it. We had a breakout. We came back. We retested the old resistance as a new support. That makes sense. That was a flag pattern. It chugged right up here. We've got another flag pattern. Let's look at candlesticks. Do my candlesticks tell me anything? Well, short term, we've had some great signals from candles. Looky here, as we traded up here, we got a nice bearish engulfing. Whole thing floated down. We got a bullish harami. We had a nice little breakout here as we got to the top. Shooting star, spinning top. Doji, bearishness is coming in. But it's looking like a flag. Does volume confirm this flag? Well, volume has contracted a good bit, but it's also much higher than the volume that we had for the bullishness. So if you've got higher volume relative to where we were with bullishness, is that bullish or bearish? It's probably a little more on the bearish side, but since we haven't got good candles to support the bearish move yet, I'm going to say this is pretty neutral. I don't have a real clear picture coming out of this trade right now, which direction it's going. All right, let's look at some indicators here. What are my oscillators telling me? Wow, now this is an interesting story. We're at resistance. We've already started to come off. My stochastics are heading down very sharply. My RSI is heading down. My MACD has crossed over bearish. This is not usually the location where you see substantial divergence, but I do have a very strong bearish divergence there. I do not have it on RSI, and I do not have it on MACD. Okay, so we do have some bearish divergence with stochastics. Not sure that's that important. I might make a note, but I'm not going to make a trading decision on that. Okay, and then as you look at this trade setup, coming over to, so in other words, sorry, I skipped a step here. In your indicators, your oscillators, you would check bearish. They're all pretty bearish. Okay, coming over to our Bollinger Bands. What kind of signal do we have here? Now, this is interesting. We had a nice little Bollinger squeeze. We had a breakout. We traded right to resistance. Got those shooting stars. We're pulling away from the band, but we've not broken below the 20 period. So before I'm really ready to say this bearish trend is continuing, I need to get a nice bearish candle. Before I'm willing to say it's a bullish trend, I need to get some good bullish candles. In other words, we're pretty much setting up for a great trade one way or the other. This is looking nice, okay? Now you come on over and you look at ADX. What is it telling us? It's pretty low. And I could have told you it would be low because there's no solid trend at the moment. Now it's sitting here at 33. Is 33 the ideal spot for a new trend to break out? No. Compare that to July where we were sitting here, down here below the 20 line. All this consolidation, it was ripe for a new trend. We had a new breakout there. We went with it. Okay, so as we've done all of our analysis now on PBR, think through it. Your line analysis is kind of neutral. You got a bearish primary trend, a bullish intermediate trend. You look at your chart patterns. My chart patterns are pretty bullish overall. You look at your moving averages. They're pretty bullish overall, except I got that dang long-term primary trend I'm dealing with. My candlesticks, they could really go either way here because I am at a support level in my trend. Let me put my moving averages back on here. As you look at your candlesticks, we're getting little spinning tops on that 10 period and the 20 period moving average. So this is, I would consider this support. Okay, so these are potential turning continuation signals at support in the bullish trend. Let me hopefully that clarified that for you. So let's see. Candlesticks are mostly neutral. I'm not really getting a good clear indication of which way we're going from candles. What am I forgetting? Indicators. Oscillators are bearish. Oscillators are really quite bearish, actually. Bollinger Bands are a little bit more bullish, but we could have a Bollinger reversal. So that would be, we could go either way on the Bollingers. They could tip the scales one way or the other. And then your ADX, it's not like in the trend. What do you guys think is going to happen? How do you want to set this trade up? I'm going to let you guys tell me. Now that you've looked at the overwhelming evidence, which way do you think the trade would go? Bracket trades, neutral, set up both, bearish, bracket, wait, strato. Wow. I don't know. That's why I'm here. Okay. I like that. I would not trade it at all. I actually think we got some really good trades set up here. I can show you a couple. One way that you could trade this trade. Take your little trigger and say, if I trade below 22.57, then I will go bearish down to $21. There's one trade setup. Now, would that make sense with our analysis? That would make perfect sense. Long-term bearish trend, boom. Short-term bullish trend at resistance starting to roll over. That would make a lot of sense. Stochastics, your oscillators, bearish. You've had some very bearish candlestick formations at resistance recently. That could really help us out here. We could really roll right over and go bearish. My trigger's at 22.57. Put it in your virtual account over the weekend. Let's see what happens. Okay? Now, can you make the bullish argument? Yes or no? Sure, I can make a bullish argument. After all, we've got the initial phases of a new bullish trend. If this thing breaks out above resistance, honestly, I really want to see it keep going. I want to get above this bullish or this bearish trend line. I want to get above that. So I'm going to put a bullish entry way up here at like $26. And in truth, it's still not a great entry because my next target's only 27. So it's going to have a good bit of, not a huge reward for my move. Okay, so if you're looking at this trade, maybe as a bullish trade, you might go bullish more neutral. You might look at more of a covered call. You might say, well, I think I'll buy the stock down here at 23, sell myself a $24, $25 call option up here, bring in some extra money, and if the trade goes up there, then I get called out at 24, 25. I still make a profit, but I'm bringing some money in from the call. See what I'm saying? So now what you're doing is you're setting yourself up to see the picture. We've got the picture. Now, which strategy do we use? Well, up here, I would use a bullish strategy. Down here, I'd use a bearish strategy. And if you wanted to trade bullish, but we're not all the way up here at $26, I'd look at maybe using a more neutral covered call kind of a strategy. Make sense? So you fill that out into your form. You've got your entries, your targets on the downside, bearish target. All right, now, what was I doing? I was setting up, I know what I was going to do. I was going to set up for you your bearish targets. Set your targets up for you. Let's pull in a little rectangle here, and we're going to say target number 1. And you guys can figure out how you want to personally do your journals, but this is your basic ideas right here. Here's target number 2. Now, why am I not worried about where I'm setting my targets? Why am I not like racking my brain? Because I've got my line analysis done. I see very clearly where my next supports and resistance are, and I expect those to be my targets. Target number 3 be way down here. And by the way, if you had to make a choice, which trade setup is stronger? Which one do you think is stronger? If you had to make a choice, the bearish target is the bearish trade setup is stronger. Yeah. However, which one has more profitability? The greater profitability is in the bullish trade setup. Okay. Now let's look at where we could do our bullish targets. Bullish target number 1. If we break out of our trend line, we keep going $27. I mean, that's not very far. Then we keep going, and we're getting up here to, I see another trend line or another target I should have put in here. So I'm going to put it in right now. $29. See, once you guys learn to look at these charts, you come back to them years later, months later, and you see stuff, and You're talking through it, and it just happens. You just see it. I promise you guys, once you do enough trader conditioning, you will see these things. All right. Go one more up here. Third target will be about $31. Okay, so we've got decent little profitability possibilities on all of these. If it happened, zoom out a little bit, and you can see that long term we got a heck of a lot more upside potential than we do downside for PBR. We're just in a downtrend. So let's see what happens. Honestly, I've seen a lot of these. This is very possible that this would set us up into a downward, into a low level accumulation period where we might start cycling down here. We've already had one small accumulation, but this could become a larger accumulation. We may get into a big channel here. Okay. So what do you guys think? John is giving me some pushback, and that's fine. He says, I don't know, Jeremy. I expect the flag to continue up to the trend line and then reverse. John, that's why I put my trigger way up here. My bullish trigger is at $26. You realize that, John? So that allows to hit up to the trend line, possibly the next target, and then still reverse and not put me in a bullish trade. You realize that? Do you see how I did that? Okay. But probability-wise, you think not. You think not what? I'm not sure what you're saying. You think not what? Not sure where you're at there. Let me see here. Moderators, help me scroll through these questions, and let's try to get them all answered, because I think we're going to have some questions here. Paula says, awesome class. Thank you. Where do I put the stops? Great question. Who was that? It's from Dave. All right, Dave. Let me zoom in here. Zoom in. Come on, computer. Think like my mind is thinking. One of these days, they will make computers that think what you are thinking before you think it. They're going to make telepathic computers one day. I am convinced. Okay, Dave, where do you want your stop to go? Do you want your stop? Okay, well, let's go with a bearish trade. Do you want your stop to be right here at 23.20? No, you want to give your trade room to move. Okay, so maybe put your stop up here at $24, right? No. We want to get on the other side of resistance. Get on the other side of resistance up here and give it a little bit of room. Not a whole lot, but a little bit of room. In this case, I would look just to the left, and the last candlestick that's reasonable, that had a high just above the resistance, was right here. That puts us about... let me see here. I'm going to come off that point right there. That puts us about 24.40. That'll be a pretty decent little stop. I'll turn that one red so we know exactly what it means. Okay, so 24.40 is going to be a pretty safe stop. Now, that's putting a little bit more risk on the line. I realize that. You know, I mean, if you go in at 22.50 and you got to stop at 24.40, you've almost got $2 that you're risking. So you have to ask yourself, is this a good risk reward? And you may determine that it's not the trade that you want to place based on a risk reward. Or you may decide that, you know, I will put my stop down here knowing that I'm taking a much higher risk of getting stopped out. In this case, I don't know that it would be that much higher of a risk, just simply because it's come down so far. Now, you are risking more in terms of, let me understand risk. You're having a higher likelihood of getting stopped out. But if you've watched enough of these patterns, you may realize that, you know, I could set a stop at this point way down here, and it actually probably would be good. And statistically speaking, it probably would be okay, but I want to teach you how to set stops so that you're not going to sit here and say that your market makers are running your stops. So I'm always going to err on having a little extra stop in there. But when you do your risk reward profile, you can look at it and say, is that really where I want it to go? And you can make that decision yourself there. Now, for the bullish trade, if we go bullish at $26, then where should that stop be? Well, we want it to be below support, so let's probably get down right around here, probably about 25.50. And that means for your first target, you got a very low risk reward, meaning you're risking about you're risking $1 to make $2, or risking 50 cents to make $1 is what I'm trying to say, which is 2 to 1. But if you hit these higher targets, you've actually got a pretty decent risk reward at those higher targets. So again, you guys decide. You guys get to decide how you're going to set those. And the best way to learn this process of setting stops, there's two ways to learn it. and well, I'd say it differently. There's two factors that come in. One factor is the factor of what your trader conditioning has taught you. My trader conditioning has taught me that I can look at any stock and I will set my stops about like what I just did for you on the screen. Okay. However, this comes from experience. Your experience with an individual stock. For example, if I'm trading Apple, I'm going to set my stops differently than if I'm trading Caterpillar. I'm definitely going to set them differently than if I'm trading CSX. And that's just because, I realize that Apple and Baidu, they've got a whole lot more flexibility, or a whole lot more intraday volatility. And that intraday volatility will stop you out of a trade. And so I haven't traded PBR for a while, so I'm kind of out of sync with where it's at. Looking at the chart, I would set it up about like this right here. But you may need to get really in sync with the stock before you start setting it there. All right. You guys have an awesome night. Thank you to my moderators. They've done an impeccable job tonight, I believe. It looks like outside of the moments where I set them up for failure by asking for ridiculous amounts of feedback, it looks like they did a great job. And so I want to really appreciate them tonight. Appreciate all of you. You guys have a great night. Happy trading. Have a great weekend. And I will see you in Power Trader Sunday night when the power is on. Good night to all of you.